right, episode 83 of the Broadway Shuffle. We've got Conrad, Clayton, and Zyler here with us. I am Brennan. We are going to get into our first position preview of the summer. And shocker, we are starting with quarterbacks. What will the Texas Tech quarterback room look like in 2025? We will get into that and much more next. But first, Z, I wanted to go to our new segment, the first word of the Broadway Shuffle. What do you have for us today?
Yeah, if you follow Texas Tech sports, you know that the biggest thing going on in the Texas Tech sporting world is the women's softball team up in Oklahoma City. I was able to watch the entire game against UCLA. Truly top-notch television. It was an electric game from start to finish. Kennedy was unbelievable. I had somebody call me after the game and say she's having a Cheryl Swoops-like run. If she wins this whole thing for us, it'll be Cheryl Swoops-esque, which is very, very high praise. Cheryl Swoops is by far the best woman athlete to come out of Texas Tech. But Kennedy has a chance to get there. That's something that I think we should at least debate and discuss and talk about. I'm sure people will have comments and thoughts. Those that saw Cheryl Swoops, she obviously went off to do really, really great things at the professional level, and I don't know that Kennedy will really have that opportunity, at least on the diamond. But what an effort by that team. The steal from home called by Glasgow was an unbelievable play call. It was reminiscent of Kurt Wilson walking off the Longhorns back-to-back nights with a home run to right field and then a steal of home. Just a really, really cool moment and something that you don't see very often. Shout out to the women's softball program and also women's softball in general. It's a good TV product. It's fun to watch. This is my first foray into that field, and I enjoyed it. It's a 2-hour event. It's really short. It's like watching a basketball game. So that's my word of the day. That's something that I was really entertained by. I watched the entire game in the Choctaw Casino, so I was like maybe 2 hours away from the action, and it was great to lose money while watching the Red Raiders win. So yeah, that's my word of the day.
I love it, man. That's a great intro into our new segment. How much money did you lose or win? Will you share it with the Broadway Shuffle?
It was more than we've made on this podcast in our entire lives. So that's the listeners can do the math.
That's millions.
That's millions of dollars, won or
Millions.
lost. Yeah,
Millions and millions.
that's amazing.
Yeah, it was fun though. We had a good time, and fellow listener was on the trip with me, a fellow subscriber, so that was a lot of fun. Shout out Hunter. We had a great time at our bachelor party, but yeah, it was a good time. That's my word of the day.
That's awesome, man. Well, yeah, and to your point, to kind of get into softball quickly, it's fun to watch, man. It's just the energy behind the whole tournament is exciting, and to see the girls compete the way they do, it's been a fantastic tournament. I've enjoyed watching games outside of Tech too. That's been fun, and I know at time of recording this, Oklahoma is up on Oregon. So when this releases, Texas Tech will be playing tonight against the winner of that game. It looks like it will be OU with the chance to go to the championship, which will be exciting. So congratulations to the girls and continue to win. We are cheering you on. So, hey, Clay, I want to get into the quarterback room 2025. I'm going to save Conrad for last because I know that he's going to be the most emphatic when it comes to the Baron Morton conversation, what he needs to do in 2025. Looking at this room, Baron Morton, Will Hammond, Mitch Griffs. You brought in Griffs from Wake Forest. Obviously, you saw a little bit of Will Hammond. What is your initial thought on the quarterback room heading into 2025, health-wise, skill-wise? How confident are you feeling in the Texas Tech quarterbacks, and specifically Baron Morton heading into the season?
Yeah, I feel like there's definitely a debate for this being like our best QB room since we had Mahomes. I don't know, like I guess it depends on what you think of when we had Shuck and Morton, but I don't know. I feel like with the talent of Hammond, I'd probably prefer this one over that. And just the experience of having Morton, who's played 2 full seasons in the system. So it's probably the best that you've been set up in that room in a while. Hopefully they can actually stay healthy. I know last year was the first year in like almost a decade that we made it through the entire season with one starter. So hopefully, we see that happen again, at least from like the injury perspective. But I don't know, Brennan, what are your thoughts on position?
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously very intrigued to see what Baron Morton's able to do with a healthy shoulder. I know last year there was a lot of talk about, how healthy really was he? Was he at 80%, 70%? And, to see what he can do fully unleashed, hopefully with a clean arm, will be exciting to see. Conrad, I know your favorite numbers are 28 and 7, coming off of Baron's stats from last season. So you're obviously very excited for Baron Morton. Let's get into him first. Obviously, the projected starter for this team, though he did miss a lot of spring camp. Will Hammond has been taking the first team reps. What is your excitement for Baron Morton with all the tools that he now has around him, plus a new revamped offensive line? How excited are you about Baron's, I guess, potential all Big 12 quarterback type play in 2025? Hey guys, before we get back to the video, make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Broadway Shuffle. Thank you. Now back to the show.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the best situation he's had since being at Texas Tech. I mean, fully healthy since, the first time since 2022, a new offensive line, a new offensive coordinator, which he had a good one last year, obviously, with where we finished, but looking at this year and the talent that's been brought around him, the new system, the new O-line, and just the experience, I think that's really something that needs to be taken into account when talking about Baron Morton, because he is a guy that's played a lot of football. He's gone through a lot of different things and in a lot of different years at Texas Tech. He's really seen this rise back to a place of needing to be taken seriously, at least in terms of Big 12 football. I think that's where we are now, which when he got here, we really shouldn't have been taken that seriously. And so I think looking at Baron this year, I think this is, a golden opportunity for him to cement himself as one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in the conference. The only concern for me is just how does he fit in this new offense? How does that work itself out with not having had many live reps? None in spring, then obviously in the summer. And so I'm not concerned about the health. I think his arm will be plenty fine. It's only June 1st, June 2nd when this is released. There's still a lot of time between now and August 31st. His arm's only going to get more healthy. And to be honest, we've already seen videos of him throwing. His arm can't really get any worse than what it was, right? He needed to get surgery. And so hopefully it's gotten better and progressed. And so I'm optimistic for Baron. I think he's going to have a great year. And I think he's going to be a big part of why you do play in Arlington for the Big 12 championship in December.
Well, Z, let's break down Baron a little bit here. What looking at his 2024, looking at his overall career, what expectation do you have for Baron to kind of level up in 2025? Based off what you've seen, he's been in the program a while. Like what does he need to improve on to kind of take that next step this upcoming season?
I think when I look at Baron's season, it really is the eye test versus the counting stats. I think there's some things that really jump out about Baron. He was fourth in the conference in total yards. He was fourth in the conference in total touchdowns passing. His touchdown percentage, this is the one where you're not as excited, but he's fifth, at 5.8% on his touchdown percentage. His interception percentage is one of the best in the conference. It was 1.7. That was tied with Sam Levitt for best. So there's a lot of things that are really good. When you get into some of the more advanced analytics, like his yards per attempt, that's where he goes to 11th. When you go to average yards per attempt, he actually jumps up quite a bit, up to 7th. But that's where it needs to be. Can he be a little bit more explosive in the way that he throws the ball? When it's yards per completion, he's 13th in the conference last year for guys, and that's 11.3 yards. That's where I'm like, man, he just really hasn't been a great deep ball thrower his entire career, or even an intermediate pass, the 20-yard passes. That's where I'd really love to see Baron improve a little bit. Yeah, go ahead, Conrad.
Let me just ask a question. Do you think that those stats have anything to do with how many screen passes Kitley called last year because of his lack of confidence in the offensive line?
Do you think he had a lack of confidence in the offensive line, or Baron's ability to?
No. Do you think those statistics? I think you saw that Baron has all the arm you need to throw down the middle of the field and deep. I think you saw that.
I don't believe in Baron's. I don't think he's an elite accuracy QB. Like, I think he's good, but I don't think he has.
No, but
he's not Graham Harrell.
No. No, there's only one Graham Harrell. But my point is, do you think that because the offensive line was factually just so bad, and we called so many screenplays to accommodate for that, because you couldn't give him, I would love to know what his average, time to throw was with a clean pocket when you factor in some of those stats. I don't know how you find those stats. I don't even know if they're kept. That I was just asking because of average yards per attempt, average yards per completion.
Yeah, and there's guys, but the company that he keeps, the guys when it's yards per completion, it's a really odd group. It's like he's behind Fafita. Like, I thought Fafita has a significantly worse line, and he was still throwing for less yards per completion. Now, he was throwing a ton of freaking passes. That's why he had so many yards. I think there were offenses that clearly had worse play callers and worse offensive lines, and their quarterbacks were able to do sometimes a little bit more. And once again, I'm not ragging on Barron. Like, I think Barron's a great quarterback. I think he's probably a top 5 QB in the conference. I think when you're nitpicking and looking for what would it take for him to go to that elite level, I need to be able to see you step up on, 2nd and 8 and deliver a strike down the field for 35 yards. That's not a receiver broke loose on a 5-yard, crosser.
Yeah.
Those are the things.
So is that the one thing that you would say in 2025 you want to see, that the maybe arm strength is probably one of the top things you want to see that he's able to do? Or
I think processing would be the biggest thing. He needs to be able to get through his reads a little bit more quickly. And part of that, Conrad will probably talk about this. When you've got an offensive line that's given you, you start seeing ghosts when you start getting hit several times and you want to get the ball out quickly. And I completely understand that. I think a better offensive line will help him with that. But Barron very rarely gets to his third read or a second read. It's very a lot of his passes are going to be first read type things. And this new offense is going to be a lot of option routes where guy gets to the top of the route stem and he gets to play it, how he wants to, based on how the defender's doing. And will Barron have the anticipation? Will he read the defense and see that the same way the receiver does? Can he work through his progressions well? And then I guess the second thing, kind of 1B, is can I see some accuracy down the middle of the field on some of those 20 to 30-yard throws? Not necessarily the 50-yard throws. Those are, you do what you can. But I just don't think I've seen high-level accuracy. I think it's been okay-level accuracy. And once again, these are nitpicks. I think Barron's a good quarterback.
For sure. And Clayton, would you take Barron's 2024? Like, if I gave you his exact year last year, you place it on this upcoming season, same stats, 3,300 yards, 28-7, decent wins. I mean, do you think this roster is that much better where you can have the exact same year from Barron and still go win a Big 12 championship, or do you feel like you need more?
That's tough. To win a Big 12 championship, you probably need a bit more, but I don't think it's like drastically more because we've gone over how bad the defense was and all the stats that go with that. So say, if the defense performs how we think it should and like is even like top 30, then you would think, with Barron's stats from last year combined with that could get you at least 2 more wins. I don't know if that's enough to like get into Arlington or win the championship, but I don't think he's like super far off, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting because the eye test, Z, you brought up a good point. Like the eye test versus the analytics, like what do you see? And I just to kind of play negative Nancy here, I saw games where it just looked uncomfortable at times. Maybe he was seeing ghosts come from the defensive line. Maybe he felt like pressure was getting there. So it just looked like he was rushing at times last year a little bit, and you obviously had the Abilene Christian game. He played great. The North Texas game, he played great. But ESPN did release an article a couple weeks ago on they kind of tiered every quarterback room from all 134 FES schools. And Texas Tech was kind of, in the middle of the pack. And it mentioned Barron Morton. It said QB-A, QB-B. And it showed stats versus ESPN FPI top 50 teams and stats against teams that weren't in the top 50. And Barron was 2 different players. He was significantly worse against ESPN top 50 FPI teams. And so you want to see him again, especially in games this year, like against BYU, at Utah, against Arizona State, at West Virginia. Like, is Barron going to play in the big games you need to win in November, October, and even your first Big 12 games at Utah? It's like, are you going to go throw a stinker there? Or are you going to go show that like you're there to win the conference? I think for Barron, I just want to see like a confidence level. Remember in 2023 with Shuck, like it looked almost like a deer in the headlights at time.
Yeah, the Wyoming game.
Yeah, the Wyoming game. Like you could see it in his eyes. Like the camera zooming on his eyes, I'd be like, and it's like what this guy looks like the computer has malfunctioned, and I think for Barron, it's just like, can you stay confident in your ability, trust your arm strength now, and go play free, but also take care of the football? And I want to see kind of more aggressiveness, Z, to your point. Like I want to be able to see him kind of whip a throw 30 yards over the middle on a string and, feel good about that and like be able to confidently step into a throw. I think that's something for Barron. Hopefully he takes that step, and maybe it's offensive line, maybe it's shoulder related, but I think that step needs to be taken if you're going to win 10 or 11 games in 2025.
And one thing I will say in defense of Barron, the problem that we have is because we don't watch every snap of every Big 12 game. I didn't watch every snap of Rocco Becht. The games that I watched the most of for Big 12 quarterbacks is when they were playing Tech, and I'm comparing them to Barron in the same game. those quarterbacks all got to play against Tech's defense, which does a magnificent job highlighting how good quarterbacks can be. And that's kind of an unfair comparison, especially when the eye test is so important. Like, the thing that always, bumps up with me when I'm thinking about this is Rocco Becht is a guy that I just love watching. I think he's such a gamer. On almost every statistical category, he is worse than Barron. And that doesn't jive with how I've seen them play. And I think that's just due to the selection bias. I don't watch every single snap of Rocco Becht. I watched every single snap of Baron Morton.
Right.
And he had Rocco had two, day 2 NFL receivers he was throwing to as well.
Absolutely. We had, Josh Kelly, God love him.
Yeah.
But undrafted free agent for the Cowboys. Like, terrible athletic scores. But I love Josh. He was a great college receiver. But yeah, the weapons were completely different.
Yeah, Conrad, the weapons around you, they help. Like, we talk about this in the NFL all the time. It's like, if you guys who love the Chiefs out there, like, if Mahomes had another receiver or had this or had a better running back, it's like, they would have had this or won this Super Bowl. I mean, they're already winning a lot without surefire weapons, which shows how good Mahomes is. Maybe not a great example using him, but like, a quarterback needs skill position players, and they need high level talent on the offensive line and at the skill position. Texas Tech has not had much of that at all in the last 10 years. So, I mean, outside of Kiki Kuti and Jonathan Giles and
Ezukanma and Wesley were both.
Ezukanma and Wesley were good. Yeah, so you had some good go-tos that have made it in the league. But the last 4 or 5
Josh
years,
Kelly has been Barron's best receiver he had, right? Is that Barron's best receiver he's had? Yeah, I'm trying to think of Barron specifically. That has to be.
Yeah.
Right. In the last in the last 4 years, who's been the best receiver on your roster? Josh Kelly?
Did you say who or
Kelly? Who? Yeah,
probably Kelly.
Yeah.
Two other things. I think Brennan, that was a great question. Talking about if you could get Barron's stat line right now, do you roll the dice? I think that stat line will almost assuredly win you 8 games next year. I think what we're looking for is the 3 road games that you've got: Arizona State, Utah, Kansas State, and then you're probably going to be in a barn burner at least once at home. And can he go and do the things that he needs to do to elevate you and really, win the game for you? I never felt like last year Barron went out and won you a Big 12 game, because we all have the Abilene Christian game. But that's where he's going to need to be really, really good. And the other thing I'll say about our quarterback room, I'm through 8 teams in the Big 12. As far as top 2 guys, there's really not many conference opponents that I would trade rooms for if you really evaluated on a recruiting score, a production score, a potential score, a depth score, and you weighted those things. Your room is going to be one of the best. Now, it may not be at the top flight level. You may not have Sawyer Robertson or Sam Levitt. But as far as who feels the best about their room if QB1 goes down, I think Tech feels better than just about anybody. And that's invaluable. You're going to see, probably 3 teams lose their quarterback for significant amounts of time. And that's huge. I mean, that depth piece is really, really important.
My question was essentially, do you expect to see multiple quarterbacks this year? Not talking about like in garbage time. Like, do you feel good about Barron coming off surgery and potentially starting all 12 games again? Or are you kind of anxious about that? And do you expect to maybe see a Will Hammond or Mitch Griffs at some point throughout the season?
I feel good about Will. I mean, I think maybe that
Will or Barron.
Are you saying you're saying a backup guy coming in?
Yeah, I'm saying, like, do you expect to see Will come in at some point? Like, do you need him? Like, not in a garbage time situation, but like, you need Will to come in.
Oh. If you need Will to come in, things have gone off the rails with Barron. I think you're letting. I don't think you need Will to win the Big 12 this season. Yeah. That's my thought. I don't know if people disagree.
Yeah.
Clay,
I think it'd be hard pressed to disagree when you look at a guy that really hadn't played all that much football compared to a proven quantity in Barron who has the potential to get better. Not saying Will doesn't, but I think I agree with Zyler. If you see Will and Barron's healthy, something has gone way wrong that we probably won't even, at that point, you're probably not even in the conversation for a Big 12 title.
And I'll say this: if Will gets the reins to this team, it will be 100. It will be on Barron. Barron's had every opportunity to do this. They're going to give Barron every opportunity to do it. If the coaching staff thinks they need to turn to him, it will be for good reason. I have full assurances on that.
Clay, what were you going to say?
if we're not talking about injury, I don't expect to see Will, just because like we know what Barron is, and we talked about like if you got last year's season from him this year, like would you be okay with that? I don't think he would get worse, and I don't think he would get benched if he just performed the same way he did last year. So I would not expect him to get benched. So to answer your question, I feel like I would only expect to see Will if there's an injury to Barron.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I just struggled that you've seen Barron play so many games, and you know that he's at worst like a good quarterback.
Yeah.
Like I don't know
Yeah.
how he would go from like, unless Kitley was somehow masking like something with Barron, and he's just really not that good. But like, I just don't see that outcome where he falls off a cliff and is like the 12th best quarterback or something like that. I just don't see
And
that.
he like cut out all of his turnover problems last year, which is the main reason that QBs get benched. Like, so you're right. I feel like that would have to be.
We don't give enough credit for that. We don't give enough credit for that.
Yeah,
the turnovers, he cut down a ton of them last year.
Yeah, and we talk about like wanting him to get to his second, third reads, but in his first year, I feel like he was getting to his second read and then just chunking it.
Yeah,
a pick. So
and there's something you said. Maybe there's regression to the mean there. 1% interception rate is incredibly low. That shouldn't be the expectation. You're looking for something in the maybe 2, like mid to high 2s. So expect maybe some regression there, but I think that's probably due to some fortunate bounces and maybe some drop passes last year that artificially deflated that number.
There were only a couple games, like the Baylor game, and he threw a couple bad picks. In the Iowa State game, I thought he threw 2 bad interceptions, but we ended up obviously winning that game. So it's not like his turnovers even really killed you. Like Baylor, you got blown out regardless of what Barron was doing. You gave up 59 points, and so it's still like a situation for me where I thought that needs to continue next year. I just think in this offense and with our defense, I do think you can survive with a game manager. Like I don't want my quarterback to get ultra aggressive like Fafita and risk everything and throw 18 interceptions, but he throws 40 touchdowns and you're like, man, that was sexy, but the 18 interceptions cost you 2 or 3 games, because you're throwing multiple picks a game or whatever it is. I would much rather see a 28-7, but with a more consistent arm for Barron. That's really it. And so, Conrad, I want to ask this question, or go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I don't know that I like the term game manager for Barron. Honestly, I think he's more than that. I think when I think game manager, I think someone that like is basically a liability, and the coaches are preventing that person from being a liability to your offense, and just like throwing screen passes, handing the ball off, like not doing anything at all down the field. And I think Barron did more than nothing down the field last year, obviously. And so I don't know that I like that terminology, but that's just nitpicking.
If last year's offense was throwing screen passes, not throwing the ball down the field and handing it off, that's pretty much what Barron did last year.
Yeah, like that's a game. That's
not. That's not. I mean, I saw more than that from him last year. He did a lot of that, but I saw more than that. He threw it down the field. He threw it to Kelly. He threw it to CD. He threw it to Coy on some. I don't think that's a fair assessment, but that's just my opinion.
But if he's like,
he threw a lot of
game manager to me is not like a derogatory term.
Yeah, like give me an NFL comp.
I guess that's just how I saw it.
Like Kirk Cousins 5 years ago.
Yeah, like good Kirk Cousins is a game manager. Good, I mean,
and wins you a lot of football games.
Yes.
You think Kirk Cousins, when he threw 34 touchdowns, 8 picks with the Vikings, was a game manager?
Yeah, like that's what he is. Like Kirk Cousins is not like a Josh Allen, Lamar, Mahomes type like
game breaker. Just
totally. I mean, are you going to talk? I mean, okay, are we talking superstar? Or are we just talking like good quarterbacks?
But like by game manager, I don't mean like
Kirk
boy.
Cousins is a good.
He's a good quarterback.
He's a good quarterback. He's a game manager.
Yeah. I wouldn't put him.
Like
I'd put like Brian Greasy in the game manager conversation. Like I just don't see.
Well,
Brian, game manager is a guy that
do that back. Brian,
I don't mean
I went way back.
He went way back.
Trent Dilfer. Like that dude. That dude was a guy that was carried by his team completely and like just didn't lose them games. When I think game manager, that's what I think. But maybe I'm just using the term wrong.
Let me put it in a different perspective then. So like it's more so I don't want Barron to try too hard to be overly dynamic or sexy and throw and just like, be like, hey, this is my show. Like a Johnny Manziel. Like Johnny Manziel was like, I'm going to risk this all. It's going to be, he's had supreme talent. He could get away with a lot. I would much rather Barron be geared more towards, I'm going to limit the mistakes. I'm going to, sustain long drives. get us into third and manageable, make the right reads, get to my first or second progression, and make a solid throw. Like I don't need. That's what I mean by game manager. I don't think I need Barron to throw it 60 times for 400 plus yards to like win the Big 12 championship. Like that's what I'm saying.
Sure. Okay. Then I'm right there with you. Then I agree.
Yeah. The question would be though that like if the running game without Taj takes a step back, can your quarterback play that way? And you still have a good offense?
And that's where we got to find out. That's what we don't know.
The scary thing is you saw one game of Barron without Taj against a pretty mid defense, and it was an absolute disaster.
Yeah, on the road.
It was. I thought it was Barron's worst performance of the whole season.
Without a doubt,
you looked shocked and out of touch against Washington State, like a team with no conference. That was embarrassing. That was really embarrassing. You can't, that's what the Utah game to me. Now that we're just kind of getting the schedule here quickly, like that's why that's I'm gonna have like anxiety about that game because you're gonna come off 3 games against mid competition. You get Oregon State, but it's like another road game, and it's like, hey Barron, like this is the game for you to show. Like you're here this year. Like that's the game I'm circling where I want to see Barron have a great game. I know it's only game 4, but like I think that sets up the rest of your Big 12 schedule of like, can we trust this guy to do X, Y, Z? Because you got at Utah, at Kansas State. You know, it's like those are 2 huge games coming up in October that you'll need, or in the early part of the season that you'll need Barron to play very well.
Especially given that those teams they build their identity around the defense.
Yes.
You know, and Utah was the only team last year with the top 20 defense in the conference. You know, that may be the stiffest test he has all year, and it'll be his first road game in his first Big 12 game of the 2025 season.
Yes.
Like humongous test.
Conrad, final word on Barron Morton, and then I want to transition briefly to Will Hammond and Mitch Griff's, just what we've got behind Barron in case things go. But I want to give you the final word on Barron Morton.
Yeah, I think Barron's a good quarterback. I think he's been the best quarterback you've had since Mahomes. I think he's going to have a good year this year. I am worried about some of the things with, the people around him. I'm also worried about him seeing ghosts because of his experience with the offensive line. I am also wanting to see him perform in big moments because I think if you're going to say, well, that's where you need him to show up in those kind of games against Kansas State, against Utah, that's where you need him just to be. You can't just be. You can be average in those games. You just can't be bad. And so we just need the floor needs to be raised in that. And so I think he's gonna have a great year. I think he's gonna play really well in Coach Leftwich's system. I think he's gonna have improved weapons around him. I think it's gonna be a good year for Texas Tech overall. But I think in large part when we sit here in December and look back on the Texas Tech football season 2025, I think you're gonna be sitting here very, very happy with Barron Morton and even where the level that he got to. I'm an optimist when it comes to Barron Morton. I think he's got all the talent in the world, and I think he's gonna be a reason that you do go deep into this football season and have a big impact on college football as a whole.
Yeah, that's great, man. Well, Z, all that being said, tell me why Will Hammond's going to be the best quarterback next year for the Texas Tech Red Raiders in 2025.
I believe in Will, man. Like, I really do. He's a grinder. That's something you want out of your quarterback. He's always working. I think that the element that he brings your offense that Barron, and this is to no fault of his own, he's got a rushing element that I think is really helpful for college offenses when defensive schematics break down. And it just gives your offense another weapon, another rusher out of the backfield. No discredit to Barron. It's just that's not at his game, and that's fine. I think Will really is the future. I think he could do a lot of good if he's called upon. He's just, needs a little bit more seasoning. And I think we saw that in the Arkansas game. You saw the talent, you saw the upside, you saw some of the stuff, but then you also saw, some of those touch throws are just not quite there yet. Some of the other things. Now, maybe that's due to he doesn't throw the ones that often and other things like that. But, quickly surpassed the backup quarterback last year to become the QB2. It was by, game 3. And so that shows me a lot. And that's nothing against Jake Strong. I wish him all the best at McNeese. But I really do believe a lot in Will Hammond as the future of this room. You just hope that you don't have to see it really at all this year. So, But I think you're in great hands.
Yeah. Clay, how valuable do you think it was for Will to kind of take advantage of Barron's injury this spring? So you kind of have a young guy, redshirt freshman, that's coming in and has the opportunity to like get first team reps as a 19-year-old kid, and after getting a couple games in 2024, how valuable is it that Will was able to get that experience, setting him up maybe not for 2025, but for the future of your program in 2026 and beyond?
Yeah, I think it's super valuable, and I think it's super valuable not only for him but for the team. Like, if something were to happen to Barron and we had to go to him, he already has experience with all those guys. Not just for a couple practices, but an entire spring camp, basically. So I think that's really promising if something were to happen to Barron. I also think not that I think Will would do this, but I think it could be a good thing that the Arkansas game didn't go great for him, just to get some like film on areas like to work on, and just like know, I guess, what it's like to face not that Arkansas is like some crazy SEC defense, but it is an SEC team. So I think that's also promising, like just going into spring knowing areas that there could be improvement.
Yeah, Conrad, we obviously saw Will against TCU. We saw him against Arkansas. And then he gets all of spring and gets a lot of great reps. And to Clay's point, I think it's great for your program. I think it's great for Will. You're probably in the best case scenario, Zia, to kind of double down on what you said as well, too. Like, quarterback room in the conference, this is one of the most secure ones you could have, especially with the situation that you had with Will getting these reps. Because now, even if Barron goes down, it's not like oh crap, we're screwed. It's like, okay, we've got Will. Like, it's going to be okay. And even in October of last year, when we had CJ Baskerville on the show, we talked to CJ about Will Hammond. This was right after the Arizona game. You're sitting, I think you were 5-1, 4-1. And he was like, we all in this locker room know even now that Will Hammond, we'd be all right with Will. Like, and that was the senior defensive captain making that comment in October. So Conrad, knowing that, and now here we are coming into a year later, it's got to feel good and at least safe, like knowing that you've got two guys that you trust.
Yeah, you do, and I think, even thinking about Will in the future, hopefully, you don't see him this year, like we've all said, but I think Will's ceiling is pretty much unlimited. A guy that works that hard with that kind of talent, who's grown as much as he has since he's been here, just in mass and weight wise. We've seen pictures of him, all the reps he's gotten at such a young age. If he's coming in there next year in 2026 as a 6 foot, what, 3, 215, and he's gotten all these reps and all this talent, he's spent even more hours in the building by that point. I'm not trying to put unrealistic expectations on that guy, but with the work he does, with the talent he has, and the mental capacity that he has, I don't know if I feel comfortable saying Heisman, but I'll say it. If all things go right, for Will Hammond, seriously, this kid, he's got all the talent in the world, and he works harder than anybody, and so that in and of itself is a big reason why I think the team, the coaching staff, and the university and the fan base is so optimistic about what he can be. And so hopefully you don't see him this year, but at the same time, whenever it's Hammond time in Texas at Texas Tech, it's going to be a good time because of all the talent that he's got.
Are we going to be in a situation at all like the Ewers Arch Manning thing from Texas? Like, do you see that happening at all this year for Texas Tech?
I hate those, like the implicit understanding that you have to undertake and evaluate if you think the backup quarterback should be starting is that you think your offensive coordinator is a complete moron, which for a lot of our fans is never a hard bridge for them to take. They love thinking that our offensive coordinator is a complete moron. I just those guys see 1,000 times more reps. They know exactly what those guys are seeing in the film room. They know who should be starting.
Yeah,
I don't think we'll see that. I think maybe I think Will has maybe a little more upside. The floor is just significantly lower this season. If Barron comes out and gives you like 85% of what you got from him last year, that's where I think you'll see the calls where it's like, he's fine, but he's just not elevating you, and it's worse than last year. That's where I think you'll see people maybe calling for Will, but I don't ever really want to do that. Those coaches know they get paid so much money to win games, and they care way more about it than we do. If they thought a guy was going to give them more reps, especially over a quarterback that can't really do anything to them after this year because his eligibility's expired, they're gonna move. So that's kind of my thoughts on that.
And you also want to think about it too from a risk perspective. Say they do, roll Will out there. There's obviously more risk in rolling Will out there than rolling Barron, right? Just because Barron's a proven commodity. I don't think that anyone is necessarily down on Will at all. I think the only things we ever heard is positive things on him. But I will say too, from a Will Hammond perspective, it's not a bad thing to sit here and wait. It's right. It's Barron's played a lot more snaps in college than he has. He's older. His body's more mature. He's more developed as a player, and just as a person, he's older. And so Will sitting there and learning from a guy like that who is not Barron's not a superstar. He wouldn't even say he probably wouldn't even say he is. But Will being able to sit there and say, hey, okay, I've seen a guy do it. I like some things he did. I don't like other things he did. I want to be better in this area. I think that's only going to be better for Will when he actually does get his opportunity to play.
Yeah, great point. And then to go to the last guy in the room, Mitch Griffs, transfer from Wake Forest. He's had 200 attempts in his career, 59% completion, 9 tutties, 7 picks. Great insurance policy. Senior, obviously coming in, understands his role in the team. Seems like a great team guy. Love the video that the media released about Mitch here a couple days ago. This seems like a really good guy just to have in the room to just be a solid teammate. And I everything I've heard about him so far has been great. So maybe we'll see him in one of the first 3 games and he'll get kind of a good senior moment there. And if not, just great to have this as an insurance policy, a guy that's been in college a long time, that understands the game and can just be a great asset to the room. Anyone has anything crazy on Mitch, I don't think we need to spend too much time on him, but I'm happy he's here.
Yeah, agreed. Hopefully we don't have to see him, but as far as, third string QBs go in college, you probably are not finding many that have actual starting experience in the Power 5. So, can't hurt.
Yep.
I will say this, if he would be anything like what we saw from the Texas Tech media team that put out on him during spring, the guy looks like an all-star to me. So from what was put out in that on the media team, now they do put out the high moments, but Mitch looked real good in what we saw of him.
Yeah. So Conrad, you've got Will as the Heisman behind Barron, and you've got Mitch as the all-star behind Barron. What's Barron?
I don't know. I don't know. Barron's Barron. I think Barron is Barron's carving his own legacy at Texas Tech, and I think you're going to see. This could be this year, obviously last year, then this year, and we look back 5 years from now, 6 years from now. This could potentially be one of the best quarterback rosters you've ever had with a guy like Barron. If it goes well this year, and then let's say we get Will for 3 years after this, and then you also have got, we haven't mentioned him, but a freshman who's hurt. I think he'll probably redshirt this year is Lloyd Jones. Some sites had him ranked as a 4-star. Zyler, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think one site had him as a 4-star, and then a couple had him as 3. But he's also got talent as well.
Yep. Suffering an ACL. He had an ACL injury, so you probably won't see him this year.
Yeah.
If you see him this year, it is.
I'll go play over. I'll go play.
Yeah,
that would be the season to forget for sure. Okay, one question before we get to our Tommy Hill reels. Best worst case scenario for your quarterback room is. So give me a best case scenario and a worst case scenario. Z, you go first.
So this is going to sound terrible, and I hate saying this, but best case scenario is that Will Hammond was just unbelievably good this spring. And is just Barron doesn't regress at all, but Will is just that much better. And he's the day one starter and is the best quarterback in the conference. That's not what I'm rooting for. But the thing about that is you have that guy for 3 more years.
So your best case scenario is Will Hammond beating out Barron.
And being unbelievably good. Because I'm thinking long term, not just this season, but next season. When you don't have a quarterback that's a known commodity, going into the season is just such a crapshoot. You just have no idea what it's going to look like.
Dude, I love that answer. I was expecting I was expecting a stat Barron 40 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, whatever you go.
That would be that would be.
I love it. I love that. Okay, worst case scenario.
I think you get Barron at 80% of what he was last year. The scheme doesn't really mesh with him. He's missing the reps. The offensive line wasn't quite what you thought it was going to be. The running game takes a huge step back, and it's just a lot of factors kind of play against him. And you get a 2,500 yard, 24 touchdowns, 10 picks, something like that, where it's still fine-ish, but definitely left a lot of meat on the bone.
Okay. Clay?
Yeah, I think I'll stick with Barron on the best case scenario. So I think the best case for him is he has a Sawyer Robertson type year. No one really expected that out of him last year, not even Baylor, considering he was the second string. I think he could take like that sort of step, maybe if everything goes right, and throw like 35 touchdowns somewhere around there and same number of interceptions. Worst case, honestly, I think is like the opposite of what Zyler said for the first one. Is like Barron is bad or injured, and then Will comes in and he's just not good. He's not what we expected. And then going into next year, like you don't even feel good about Will Hammond anymore. So that would be the worst case.
Yeah, that would also stink. Knowing like what do we do in 2026?
Yeah.
Conrad, you're up.
Yeah, I mean, best case obviously is Barron has 5 or less interceptions, throws 28, 30 touchdowns, and doesn't turn the ball over, doesn't fumble the ball either, has maybe 7 total turnovers for the entire year, makes crucial plays in crucial moments, and leads us to a Big 12 title game. I think worst case, I'll piggyback with Clayton, because I don't think anything can get worse than taking the optimism away on Will Hammond, right? Like if Will does play and he's not good, which I do not expect that to happen. I think that's a pretty, like, I'll give that less than a 1% chance of happening if Will actually did play. Like I do believe in Will, but at the same time, if he did play and was not very good, and then let's just add another layer on top. Let's just say he gets hurt, and then we got Mitch is in. Which, no offense to Mitch, I'm sure he's a great guy. We'd love to have him on the show. He's starting like 8 games for you because that's just not what he's expected to do, right? That's not his role on this team. And so I think if you just get, Barron gets hurt, not playing well, Will is not playing well, he gets hurt, and then Mitch comes in and just plays well, but he's just not the same level of Barron and Will. I think that'd be my worst case scenario for this season from the quarterback perspective.
If Mitch Griffis is starting by game 4, there are going to be a whole entire fan base that's on suicide watch.
Yeah, it's would have gone downhill fast.
Yeah.
Hey, if that happens, I think we should. I think Mr. Campbell should make a motion somehow, some way to allow mid-season transfers, because at that point we'll be at the top of the list for needing somebody if Mitch is starting by game 4.
Yes, bring the commissioner of college football back. We need him. I'm going to keep this super simple. Best case scenario, your quarterback play is a part of the reason that you're playing in Arlington in December. Worst case scenario is your quarterback play is a big part of the reason that you are not playing in Arlington come December. If after everything that you did in the offseason, with what you did on the defensive line, offensive line, and if those players hit, like if they do well, not everyone's going to be a stud, but if most of them make an impact for your team, and quarterback is the one reason that you either go or don't go, on a negative sense, that's going to be a huge problem. And on the positive sense, that's only going to make you that much more scarier into the college football playoff and into the Big 12 title championship game. So I think that's your best case, worst case there for quarterback. In my opinion, it's either be the reason, best case, or you are the reason you didn't go, and that'd be the worst case. I hope it's not that position group that we're worried about. So, okay.
Well,
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. All right, Tommy Tubervilles of the week. Man, there's some good ones this week. Clayton, I know you wanted to go first on this one, and it's someone that we do like to poke fun at on this show. So why don't you give us your Tommy Tuberville of the week?
Yeah, my Tommy Tuberville of the week was pretty easy for me this week. It is Kurt Cignetti / Indiana football. And I want to preface this by saying I know that these football schedules are put together years in advance, but I just thought it was funny, with all the clamor around Indiana last year and like their schedule and who they played, and they didn't really belong. They tweeted this graphic recently. Hopefully you can see it, of their non-conference schedule.
Is that Kennesaw State?
Yeah, it's Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, and Indiana State. That's their 3 non-conference games.
Maybe I didn't even know there was an Indiana State
I've ever seen. Exactly, that's my point. So, Indiana football, you are my Tommy Tuberville of the week.
Very spicy.
I like that one, man. Yeah, I mean, Indiana's they get a lot of heat. People love Kurt, but they continue to get a lot of heat, and his comments get a lot of heat too. It's interesting. Go ahead and get that easy schedule back to 11 wins. So, Z, go ahead.
This one is going to be preemptive, so I could look really, really stupid if this ends up working out horribly. But it's going to be the Texas Longhorns in their baseball program, looking like they're going to get beat by UTSA on their home field to lose in the regional as the number 2 overall seed in the country. that would stink a lot. I cannot imagine dealing with that. That's why we didn't want to play in the postseason this year. We just knew that was too big of a risk. Yeah, that with Texas missing, I don't want to steal Brennan's thunder. The number 1 overall seed in softball in Texas A&M not making out of the regional, with A&M baseball starting out the season ranked number 1 and not even make it to the postseason. It has been a hilarious season to be a hate watcher of Texas baseball programs. So my Tommy Tuberville of the week is the Texas baseball program.
I love that, dude. And any SEC hate we can get, whether it's baseball, football, basketball, whatever it is, at least we get it in baseball. I'm going to go ahead and double down on that. Vanderbilt got eliminated as the number 1 overall seed in their regional, losing to Wright State on their home field. Not getting out of the regional as a number 1 overall seed is crazy. As you mentioned, UT might not get out as well too. So Vanderbilt baseball getting the blessing of number 1 only to lose to Wright State. That is worthy of a Tommy Tuberville of the week for sure. So that's mine. Conrad, close us out on the Tommies.
Yeah, mine's going to be real simple. It's going to be a probably 3 or 4 time Tommy Tuberville of the week winner. Mr. Shedeur Sanders again making another appearance. You know, when you don't know where to go, you go back to what's familiar. And I just thought that, you know, Shedeur Sanders as a repeat winner for the 4th, maybe 5th time. I don't know. I just think he belongs in our show on that segment. Maybe weekly, maybe monthly. I don't know. He'll stay around for a long time.
Tried and true, baby. If it's working, don't broke what ain't, or don't fix what's broken. Wow, I just messed up.
Or what's not broken.
Don't fix what's not broken. Yeah. But yeah, Shedeur, welcome to the Tommy Shrine for sure. I did want to give breaking news before we close on the tech trivia. You'll already know this listening to it, but OU did win, by the way. So we will be facing OU at 6:00 tonight as you're listening to the show. A chance to beat the champs to be the champ. Sometimes you got to go through the defending champion to become the champion, and Texas Tech will have that opportunity. And if they do lose at 6:00, they would play immediately after at 8:30. So you got to just win one. You got to find a way to split with OU, and you will be going to the national championship series. So that is exciting. It'll be a lot of fun. So Z, with that, close us out with our tech trivia of the week. Do you
there
have
will
one?
be no tech trivia this week.
I just realized I don't think we had. I got one. When's the last time the softball team made the Women's College World Series?
Never happened.
Good answer. It's the first time. Well, there we go.
One final thought on that, man. That NIL investment, man. At least it paid dividends. How crappy would that have been to like flame out in the regionals or something like that? Like pretty solid return on investment.
Oh my gosh, and and also like this shows you how much I didn't know about softball. But like I didn't really know that you could just continue to pitch. Like Z, you texted in our group like, gosh, she gets to pitch again on Monday. It's like she's allowed 1 run in 14 innings now in 2 games, and she gets to pitch again on Monday with a chance to go to the national championship series. It's like when one player like seriously was able to give you that much to your team and to your program, that's worth the investment for sure. Like if you wish you could just pay a quarterback, whatever the quarterback NIL top dollar is, and it's like guaranteed you don't win you a conference championship in softball. That's what happened.
I was reading Bill Conley, and he writes about softball as well as football, and he was saying after college quarterback, there's no other position in college sports that contributes more to a team's success than an ace softball pitcher. Like there's not a stud point guard, not a great wide receiver, not a rush end. There's no other position that contributes more to winning games than
I would agree.
having a stud.
So as we close the show, let's go. I have one. Since we don't have a tech trivia, here's the question: if Texas Tech softball wins the national championship, would Canada be an top 5 all-time Tech athlete?
Yes,
I think so.
Yes. Yeah.
If you were thinking about the Mount Rushmore of Tech athletes,
of Tech athletes, man or woman, with what she was able to bring to your program and do and lead you to a championship, I feel like she'd be top in 1 year. I think she'd be top 5.
Nothing professionally, because I think like Mahomes feels like he's on there. We should probably do an episode about this at some point, but Mahomes feels like he's on there just because of how culturally relevant he is and how much he loves your institution. But
yeah,
I agree.
I think that we actually should do a Mount Rushmore of Tech athletes. Let's do this when we've got a next free episode, because I know we've got some exciting stuff coming for our Thursday episode that we'll let all of you guys see on Thursday morning. But maybe next week before we get to another preview, we could do the Mount Rushmore of tech athletes. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. We'd love to hear who you guys think. If you're listening to this point, I really care about your opinion because you're a dedicated.
You are a true shuffler.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that let's do it. So let's hold our answer till then. But I think that's a great thing. The Mahomes thing, I have a different opinion. I would be. Okay. I'll wait. But
yeah, you're just a Mahomes hater, Brennan.
Come on, man. Hey, by the way, congrats to my boy Josh Allen on getting married. What a great wedding! I had a ton of fun. It was great, to be there.
Do we also need to?
It was Haley looked beautiful. It was a fantastic.
You and Haley go way back. That's nice for us in that invite.
Michael B. Jordan was best man.
Michael B. Jordan was best.
Brennan, do we also need to talk about the organization that Josh Allen works for and is employed by? Buffalo Bills.
I love,
we need to have that conversation.
Buffalo's a great place. I love upstate New York. I love Western New York. It's a fantastic organization. I stand for most of what they put on their website. So most of it. I'll leave it at that.
I already wrote them off, but now they're absolutely gone for me. But
so anyways, well, we hope you guys enjoyed the show. We'll be back on Thursday for a very exciting interview type discussion. I will leave it at that. It'll be a lot of fun. We can't wait to bring it to you guys. So make sure to like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss an episode. And we will also be doing the Mount Rushmore of Texas Tech after that. So make sure to stick around for a lot of fun summer content. Z, I think we'll be releasing your summer series too. I know you've been knocking out some of these interviews.
We'll start this weekend.
Start this weekend as well. So be on the lookout for those. It's going to be a lot of fun. We are only 2.5 months away from football season. So let's get ready to roll. It'll be a great summer, and we hope you guys have a great week. Wreck 'em Tech, go softball, and we'll see you guys next time on the Broadway Shuffle. Wreck 'em.